welcome to another war game review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
Today we're taking a look at a game from Compass Games. I came out earlier in 2021, I believe.
Yes, I believe.
No, it was
Maybe
late
it was
2020.
late 2020.
So this is an Attrition of Souls. So this is a very grim title. But it is...
Well, it's very evocative of what it is.
Yeah,
right?
whew. But this is a two-player grand strategic World War I game. Now, when you say that, a lot of people are like,
grand strategy.
It's going to be a 2-day affair.
No.
This plays in 90 minutes or less.
Well, it says on the box 90 minutes, but more often than not, this is going to be a 45 to 50 minute game, I think.
Yeah, I'm always very wary of that stuff, because it's like, people are like, oh, it takes this long or this long, and you're always like, okay.
Well, we played this in about 45 minutes, and the game ended in fall of 1916.
Yes.
So there were 5 turns left.
Yeah, so
maybe it would have went another 30 minutes.
But at most, it's going to be about 90 minutes, and this was the first time we've ever played this. So
yeah.
So this is a light, abstract, grand strategy World War I game, basically.
Yep.
You mentioned it was kind of a Ameritrashy dudes on a map.
Well,
kind of thing
only
in a
because
way.
it's, one counter represents one guy.
Yeah,
and you're rolling some dice.
You chuck a bunch of
hitting on
dice.
some numbers. Yeah. I actually really liked the combat system. It was kind of funny as we were setting it up and we were rolling. I was like, oh, that's kind of unique. Because they only hit on the number that's printed on the counter.
Yeah, it's not like that number or less like in Axis and Allies. It's just...
But it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool. It works. It works for this style of game. And frankly, this is not an in-depth brain burner that involves a ton of strategy.
No.
It can be very swingy.
And it's not supposed to be.
No.
That's the thing. The thesis of this game isn't trying to say a whole bunch of this stuff, right?
Right.
This is... Here's a World War I setting. You're going to get some flavor. There's some nice notes in the back of the rule
There's
book.
some cards with events.
And we're going to play a game.
Yeah.
Right? This is a game that you enjoy with someone, and it doesn't take all day.
I think more than many war games we play, this is really a game. It's anybody can win it because of the way it's set up. You draw your units out of a bag.
Yep.
So you can't select your units.
No, and sometimes it can. You're like,
oh, it's terrible. Like I was like, oh, I can't draw a German unit, and then the next turn I drew like 5 German units because the bag thins out, and you end up, your first turn you drew 1 British unit and 1 French unit, so the entire Western Front was defended by an infantry counter and an artillery counter.
Yeah, it was awful. And then I had like 8. Russians.
You had 12 Russians, I think we counted.
Yeah, by the time it was spring of 1914, you're like, great.
So you got to understand that. It's swingy with dice. The combat, it's not like a plane is better in combat than infantry. It's just a different number.
Yeah, so it's not better in that, it hits better or it's got a better threat range. Yeah. What the combined arms do is it expands
the range of your hit.
The range that you can hit on.
Yeah. If you have nothing but... You could have a stack of dudes.
Yeah, I had
12 guys.
I had 8 Russians, and they were all ones. I only hit on ones. I got a bunch of guys, only hit on ones.
So you rolled 8 dice, you rolled 1 or 2 ones, 4 5s and 6s a bunch, and you only hit 3 times.
Yeah, whereas if you've got a couple planes, a couple artillery pieces, a couple men, you can hit on 1s, 2s, and 3s.
Yeah.
You're going to do 50% more hits, basically,
yeah.
Or 3 times as many hits as you were going to do. It just opens up the dice range for you to do damage, right? So that's their way of doing, combined arms and, technology and forces. It's all, again, it's very abstract, but...
Yeah.
And you can't really plan on it. It's just what you draw out of the bag.
But once again, all those mechanics work together to create a playable game.
Yes.
That's enjoyable. I had a good time with it. Is this a deep game that I'm going to get off the shelf every week? No. But it's an interesting game. You made the comment. I thought it was a great comment. This game is going to be what?
This is a game that you pull out on Christmas to play with your dad.
Yeah.
Right? It is.
He's not a gamer.
It is an unpretentious game.
Yep.
I am a pretentious person.
Yes, you are.
And so I have to try and convince someone to play a war game with me who doesn't really want to. This is the kind of game that you pull out. Because the rules are incredibly easy. Frankly, the rules are all on the play aid.
Yeah, you don't even need the rule book, really.
It's not even like, I don't have to explain strength points and CRTs and supply lines. You don't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
You draw some guys out of the bag, put them on the map where it says you can put them.
Yeah.
And
it says right here, Russian entry region.
That's where the Russians go.
Petrograd.
There's only one place they can go.
Yep.
And then it says, move all your guys you want to. You move your guys out to the fronts.
Yep.
And then where you guys are, you roll some dice and fight some battles.
Yeah.
And did you conquer the territory? Yes, you flip over your little control
marker,
it. And that's the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. The other cool thing, though, about the game is it is in some ways an economic game. Because you're
very much so.
You're trying to protect these economic centers. One, so you can place your units in there.
Yep.
But two, Berlin gives you the ability to draw 3 units from the bag.
Yes.
That's actually the largest.
Yeah, Paris is 2, London's 2.
So, that's the number of those is how many units you can draw out. So
yeah, you're trying to conquer those territories that have the IP values on them,
Yep.
most of which are capitals. There's a couple of Russian ones which aren't, but you're trying to capture those areas so that you gain the economy, so you can draw more units from your bag and you can get it to snowball.
And you take it away from your opponent.
Yes, so you hurt them, but also that's how you win the game. If you control 17 of those at the beginning of your turn, you win.
Yeah.
Or if it gets to fall 1918 and no one's won, whoever's got the most is going to win. It's real simple.
Yeah.
But it's such, you get that little economy in there as well. Mm-hmm. But
when you have to think about that, you have to think, oh, I really have to protect this place.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go guns to the,
Yeah, you can't expose yourself.
All guns, because
if you all go down one route and leave the other one open,
and you lose all that.
Yeah, you'll just do the swirling motion. You might take one of
theirs.
They're going to take all your ones.
The one thing that I think the one thing that I didn't like about the game, and we saw that play out when you showed the board. I mean, if you look at Paris, the British are never going to be able to defeat that. It's going to be like a monumental effort.
Well, but see,
but those aren't over on the East Front fighting. But it's like, what are the British going to do? Then they come in the backside.
But they were there for all of one turn, and then the game was over.
Right, because I kind of blitzed in there, took it,
and the game
came to an end. So it's not like they're sitting there for the entire game.
It's it's not
true.
Some gross, broken thing.
No.
It's a game that can tilt, because if your economy starts to shrink, you get fewer units out with which you can defend fewer spaces.
Yep.
And it's going to be over. But guess what?
45, 50 minutes. Yeah.
It's not that I'm not sitting here I'm not complaining because I spent 6 hours going up against a death stack that I didn't have a chance against. Guess what? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. I think I take my comment back.
It's not,
because it's light. It's just a light game,
and it's so very easy, especially for us. I think who play so many war games. To get into these deep and complicated games that seem so serious.
Yeah.
So to play something like this is quite refreshing to start with.
Well, yeah,
but also I kind of have to take off my.
Your war game glasses or your snobbery.
Yeah, and
just say this is a light game.
Stop being such a snob and
just play it for what it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know. Yeah, it's okay to just enjoy yourself and have fun.
Yeah, and I don't want to give you the. I'm wondering if people are sitting there going, well, they really didn't like it. I think we liked it. It's just a simple game.
Yes.
I just think we're trying to make that point that this is not an overly complex game. It's not like The Lamps Are Going Out that we played 3-4 weeks ago.
No, you have, and that's just it, right? You have to go into this game with the appropriate expectations.
Yeah.
And understanding what the game is. If you're coming here for some deep, rich historical simulation, that's not only are you not going to get it, that's not what this game is supposed to be.
Yeah.
I think this was designed by
Scott Librand.
It's made a game that's enjoyable, that has a historical theme on it.
Yep.
And I think that's a credit, because it does exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. The other comment that I think we made, that we talked about, do we say that? But, you said play this game with your dad at Christmas.
Yeah.
Rather than, say, a Monopoly game.
Yeah, so...
Because you don't want to play Monopoly.
No.
You want to play a historical game.
I
has a little flavor.
am 100% not the only person who, when you get together at family gatherings, back in the olden days, and they whip out like Monopoly or Candyland
Or Phase 10.
or Phase 10, and you're like,
I don't want to play
just
that.
want to go home and lie down in the snow like it's the Western Front, and I'd rather just wander off into the blizzardy wilderness.
So this is a game I would rather play in that instance because it's historical. It's got some interesting elements and interesting mechanics, and it was fun.
Frankly,
we had a good time with it.
It's shorter than most of those other crappy mass market games.
Monopoly can be like 6 hours.
Yeah, dude, let's just sit down and play this thing.
Be done with it.
Takes a little bit of time. We had a good time. It was enjoyable.
Yeah.
And it's a style of game that I like.
Yeah.
And no one's getting upset.
Yeah.
About the ridiculousness of anything, right? It's got a nice little theme on it. And there's a ton of like optional rules.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
However much you want to go into this. Just the core rules is like dudes on a map fighting over areas.
Well, there's different special units. The Entente have tanks.
Yes.
And the Germans have the Jagd commandos and the stormtroopers.
Yes.
And they all have little different abilities. They're not overpoweringly amazing, but they're different than a normal infantry unit. So you throw those in, it makes it a little bit more fun, gives you a couple more units as well.
Yeah, you can put in the trenches into the game.
Yeah, the trenches were very cool, very cool concept.
There's
generals.
There's a bunch of event cards.
Yep.
Like,
We liked the event cards, although every one of mine was play after 1917.
Yeah, but once it gets to 1917, you're like...
I was gonna crush it. I was gonna crush it. But I don't know. I really liked the optional rules. I thought they were very well done. They added some of the historic flavor to the game.
And they're modular as well. So
you don't have to do all of them.
You can add as many or as few as you want.
Yep.
And if you don't like this one, you don't ever have to include it in subsequent games. You just put a different one on, use different things. And, and I'll be honest, reading the rules, like, the actual rules of this... Oh, where did I put the rule book?
It's over here?
I think it's on the floor. Pants.
Like, there's like 12 pages?
I mean,
most of those were optional.
actual core rules are like less than 10 pages.
Yeah.
There's like another 10 pages of optional rules and card explanations.
Yeah.
Like, you can make it as, add all this extra stuff if you want to, which is fun and enjoyable, and I would recommend it, but like, if you want to just play with someone who's not a wargamer, just play it real simple.
Yep.
This is the kind of game that you're going to crank out. And I cannot stress to you that the time factor is a huge positive.
Yeah.
Like, you trying to convince someone to sit down for like a 3-hour game or something, I think that turns a lot of non-gamers off.
Yeah, but 45 to 90 minutes, they're going to sit down and enjoy that.
It's a much, much easier sell for those people. So, all that being said, I will show you the board, and we'll go through the mechanics again. Not
pretty basic.
Yes, so and then we'll wrap up with some final thoughts. So here's a look at the map. As you can see, it is a very abstract map of Europe, basically. It's just divided up into a number of very large regions. The squares are capitals, and you can typically place guys onto the board, mobilize guys there. The circles are just kind of regions in between, and they're connected by paths. The black paths are land paths, these kind of wavy blue ones are naval paths, which are off limits to the Central Powers player, to the German player. This is, and again, it plays in 90 minutes at most, which I was very surprised by. It actually does do that. And you see, the sequence of play is not particularly complicated. You don't do a million things in each turn. So basically on your turn, you check your industrial points, your IPs, and let's say you have like 7. What you're going to do is you're going to take your little draw bag of chits, and you draw that many out of your bag. And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. And so these go into onto your play aid, which I'll just grab one over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, did I just drop a bunch? I may have done. Yes, I dropped at least one. So you you kind of just put them into your reserves so that you can then assess what you've drawn. So we've got we got some French guys, we got some Russian guys, and we got one British unit. And this is late war. The Entente power lost this game pretty badly. But what you would then do is then you're going to mobilize your units, and so you are. You're going to take these and place them out onto the map. And some of it's kind of pretty structured. So France, their units can only enter the game in Paris. Because it's Central Powers controlled, you can't mobilize there. If it was just contested because we'd had a unit there already and it wasn't controlled, we'd be able to put them in there. So but what's going to happen is here we'll just push the Germans back to... We'll push them back to Belgium for now, just so that we have a reasonable example. Got a little Entente control marker. So you basically just mobilize them. You just put them there. No big deal. And the British one we'll put in Great Britain. And the Russian ones, yeah, we also lost control of Moscow. So we'll stick them in. We'll get this out of the way. It's just a holding box. That's all it is. Yeah. The Russians were not good in this game. We'll stick them in Petrograd, where it's the Russian entry box. So you put the guys out, and then you do your movement. You move any or all of the tiles on your board, and they can. They have to start in an Allied capital region. If tiles are in a contested Allied capital, they can still move. Control only the Entente may use naval paths. Okay. So basically, so this guy, he can move. These guys, they can move. And these guys, they can also move. And so what they're going to do is... This is a terrible attack to do, but we're going to swing everyone around. We're going to attack Belgium, just to show you what it looks like. But yeah, you place guys out. You do all your moves. Like, they would kind of move in and do an attack. You wouldn't, just because this is terrible odds. And then you conduct battles. And the battle is actually quite interesting in the sense that I don't know if I've seen a system quite like this. So, when you're attacking, and this is very interesting because defending it's not that way. When you're attacking, you choose only one of the nationalities to attack with, if there's more than one. So if the Entente's launching this attack into Belgium, you count whichever nationality has the more pieces. So we've got French, so we're going to roll 3 dice, 1 per piece. If the Germans were doing this attack, they would roll 7 dice. If we had 3 more British units, they would have 4. They would roll 4 dice instead of 3. But it's the most of whichever faction has the most. So the French are only going to roll 3 dice, but because they're only rolling 3 dice, you have to think about it in numbers way. They're launching this many troops. Well, they're only going to encounter an equal number of troops because we're spread out across a huge front all the way across Belgium. You kind of think about it. These guys are defending parts of the line which aren't being attacked by these 3 guys, is the way to think about it. So what happens is you roll 3 dice, and both sides use the results from this 1 die roll. And again, I don't know if I've really seen that before, so you just chuck the 3 bones. That's the best roll I've ever seen in my whole life. Because what you want to do is you're trying to match your dice pips to the pips that are shown on these. So if you have, there's infantry have 1 pip, artillery have 2 pips, and aircraft have 3 pips. So if you only have infantry, which I swear happens to me like the whole time. So if you only have infantry, you can only utilize 1s. The Germans have 1s, 2s, and 3s, so they can utilize 1s, 2s, and 3s on the dice. So in this instance, this guy shoots 1, this guy shoots 1, and this never came up in the game. Yes. So those guys do 1 damage each. So the Germans are going to take 2, and it's simultaneous. But the Germans don't roll dice. They use the same dice. So they've got 2 guys. They're going to utilize 2 of the dice and do 2 damage back. So we're going to do equal amount of damage. If they had another infantry, which hilariously they don't, they could utilize another infantry. So it is possible to take more losses if you have a different force composition and the dice roll make it so. And what I really, really like about this dice system is, because I'm going to lose 2 guys, you're going to lose 2 guys, and it's basically just going to be and we're going to end up having something of a stalemate here. So, this is where you get the World War I attrition aspect of it, right? One side rolls dice, we both interpret both sets of dice. We're going to have, within reason, similar enough force compositions where a 1, we're both going to be able to use it. So you get the attrition on both sides. If we've got a couple like we did here, both sides are going to take that. If we've both got artillery and we had rolled a 2, they use an artillery. If I had one, I would use it. If we roll the 3, my airplanes can use the 3, their airplanes can use the 3, and we both do damage to each other. It's not like I can roll hot and you can roll cold and I'm going to steamroll you. You can't do that in this game. Because you both utilize the same set of dice, you're both going to be doing similar enough damage to each other. So the real key to winning conflicts is having a better force composition. So if someone's only got infantry, and you do have a couple infantry, a couple artillery, a couple aircraft, you're going to be able to utilize those 2s and 3s to inflict wounds, and they're not. Those 2s and 3s don't trigger for them, so to speak. And so that's one way to do it. Having sheer volume. If I've got 5 guys and you've got 2, and I roll, a bunch of 1s, yeah, I'm going to take 2 losses, but your whole army, your whole stack's going to be wiped. Now, getting that to happen can be a little bit challenging because you draw your units randomly from that bag, so you really can't predict what you're going to get out of it. And that again, it's a 9-minute game. It's not super mega deep and serious. It's a simulation. And so, like, what happened in our first turn is we had like 12 Russian infantry around here, and basically nothing on the west front. And so it was, we were able to make some gains over here. Nothing happened over here. It was very interesting. But the utilization of the single set of dice is a really cool concept, and I think it works very thematically and appropriately in this game. But basically, you conduct all of your battles. You might, if you eliminate everyone, then you just take control of it, and you can blitzkrieg on. You can move on if you do wipe someone. It's very hard to do that. Most of the time, it's going to be contested like this, and you'll be stuck in this quagmire, and you've got to feed more troops into it. Just kind of how you'd expect in a World War I game. And honestly, that's basically about it. At that point, if you've got neutral tiles, so if you look down here, in fall 1916, the USA and Mexico joined the wars. If you had drawn a USA tile, let's see if I don't even have one, do I? If you had drawn a USA tile that turn, you can't place it at the beginning. They declare war and join the war at the end of the turn. So you would then bring them on at the end of the turn. This would become Entente. And then subsequently in 1917, they'd be able to kind of move on through and start contributing. But turns are put guys out. You're going to do 2 or 3, maybe 4 battles. But a battle is chuck 1 set of dice and remove a couple guys. And that's basically it. So it's not complicated. The game does go by at a really, really fast clip. And as such, they're able to keep it as this little 90-minute abstract game. You'll get into some ahistorical things. This, again, it's not like a super mega simulation. You will get pushed into certain things, and the lengths of these tracks makes it less appealing to go and do all this weird ahistorical stuff. The stuff that's really close together, the values of these industrial production points, encourages you to attack into those areas because you want to hurt someone's economy. If you hurt their economy, they can draw less guys from the bag, you'll be able to outproduce them, and your numbers are going to kind of snowball eventually. But, because it's random, you'll get a weird distribution of troops sometimes, or an event might kind of trigger that pushes you into something, and you might be able to utilize that in a way that might have been unforeseen, or like we didn't draw any French guys hardly, and we just got steamrolled on the Western Front. It was ugly, but we pushed around in here a whole lot. The Ottoman Empire was looking very, very tenuous very quickly early on, but made a comeback with help from the Austro-Hungarians. So there's just you can get into a lot of neatness, but again, if you look at the number of spaces on the board, it's actually quite a small board. It looks, inches-wise it's standard, but there's not that many spaces on the board, and so as such, everything's quite close to each other, and you're very cagey about things. If you take Istanbul, then all of a sudden, Austro-Hungarian Empire is like, uh-oh. These, they're like right on the doorstep. Like, these capitals are pretty strong buffers, but if a buffer falls, it really changes the direction in which you're trying to play. But not a complicated game. But it works well and does what it's supposed to. So what we'll do is we'll wrap up with a few final thoughts. So that was a look at the map. The map itself is, I will be honest, not my favorite map in the whole world.
It's very basic. It's a bunch of boxes with wavy lines, and
yeah, and
that's all you can say, really.
I just have to think back to myself. This is a game designed for people who aren't me.
Right. Well, it's functional.
It's very bold. It's very clear. It's very functional. There's no mistaking what anything is.
Right.
Even if you've got a bunch of guys in those areas,
you can see it.
They're
big boxes.
You can see what it is. If I'm playing it with my great uncle, he can see what everything is as well.
Or our father-in-law, who sometimes has a magnifying glass to help.
I don't even think he'd have to use this on this map. So that's what I will say about it.
You need the counters are really nice. They're pre-rounded. The cards are very nice.
Very thick counters.
Yeah,
they've outdone themselves on those.
Nice dice, big chunky. And it's a mounted map board.
Yes.
Many people like that. Non-gamers really like that. They don't play on a paper map.
Bringing out a paper map at Thanksgiving, that's not going to go down well.
That's not good. I mean, it's okay for us.
Yeah.
But others are like, well, what are we doing here? So
we bought half a game. No.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I will say the layout of the map, and most of these games through trial and error and playtesting and playtesting and playtesting, it creates very interesting, areas.
Where the choke points are, where the paths are, as a point-to-point game, those are always some of the most interesting parts of the designs. You're right.
And it's just interesting because, in this game, you can't, if you don't control this area, you can't blitz through here to attack.
Yeah.
You've got to slowly move through and then attack.
And going slow forces, provides the opportunity for counterattacks
and to build
for
up.
others to build up defenses.
Yeah. I thought the map layout was very well, done very well. The Entente can do some naval movement. They control so they can do some of that movement that the Central Powers couldn't. So that really made some extra angst for me when Italy came in the board. I'm like, oh, Paris is wide open because now they can attack.
Yep, they can just.
So you got to be aware of that. The other thing I really liked about the game and the board, very clear what counters, and they call them tiles in the rule book. To me, tiles are bigger. This is a counter.
Yeah, they refer to as tiles.
They call them tiles, but
reason.
They tell you, hey, in 1914, add these to your bag. So you build your bag and you draw them out. Well, in 1915, you throw in the Bulgarians, and so you add those in. The thing I liked about that is as the players, you're kind of looking at that going, oh, the Greeks and the Romanians are going to come in here in a few minutes. I got to start thinking about how do I defend myself when they join the war.
Yeah.
So I liked that because it wasn't decided, because all those guys can pop up and really do some damage.
Yeah, even if you play with the event cards, there's very few kind of gotcha moments.
Yeah.
So
the Gallipoli card was kind of a gotcha moment.
Right, but if there's 12 event cards, you can look through them beforehand, kind of read them all, so you know what could happen.
Well, and you draw what, 6 of them, and you whittle 4. It down, keep 4. So
but it's one of those things where you're like, the game, no one's going to be angry at you because you won in some sly,
weird, funky
gamey,
way,
douchebaggy way. You've seen everything coming, basically. And it's rare that anything absolutely wild is going to happen, like, that's a surprise to anyone.
Yeah. I also liked, the other thing I really liked was the concept of the contested spaces. If a space is contested, you can still place units in there, like if it's
a capital,
an entry region, but you don't gain the IP points from it, the industrial points. So if Berlin's contested, I can put dudes in there, but I can't gain those 3 IP, and that's a big hit. So there were a couple times I was like, I'm just going to move in there.
You just got to take things back.
Yep, I'm just going to try to take that back, but you've got 4 units there. Guess what? You're not going to get it for a couple of rounds. That's okay. I kind of won that. It was something I did to make you not be able to do what you wanted to do. I also really liked the unit draw out of the bags. Very cool concept.
Yeah, it's fun.
There's some, when you're pulling those out, you're like, oh crap, no Germans, what's going on? More Russians, and it's interesting. I also think the concept of when the units are destroyed, you can put units back in your bag, but you got to put all the units back in your bag.
Yeah, that's such a cool decision point. Like, if you've got a pile of dead Russians, you either have to put them all in the bag, which is going to dilute your bag significantly.
And make it so you don't draw French and British.
Or you put none in there.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I can't fight if they're all dead.
Have no Russians.
Yeah.
So that's a cute
I thought the
too.
bag building concept, I guess that's what I would call that, is I thought that was interesting. Once again, made it feel like a game.
Yeah, while it's not a complicated thing in any way, shape, or form.
I think there's a lot to like here. I think early on we were hesitant about this.
Yeah.
Because of its simplicity, the dice mashing.
Yeah.
But I think after we played it, after a while, I was like, oh, this is interesting.
And it's funny, I don't know if it's just like, the is it the Mandela effect? Maybe. Like, I've seen so many people talking about and playing this game recently.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just because we've
decided
like,
seen
we're probably going to play this. But people love it because it's fast playing and it's enjoyable fun.
Yeah.
Some games, you play them and you're like, this was an exercise.
Yeah.
That was heavy on my brain and I need to sleep.
And those kind of games are great. We love those kind of games. But this is a break.
This is the kind of thing, it's like, I played it with my son. I played it with a family member. I played it with someone who does not play war games.
Yep.
Because it
doesn't even like
short
history.
And simple.
Yep.
But it has a great theme in it, and it can make you think about some things as well. But it's got a lot of things that are appealing to people who might be turned off by some of the other games on the shelf.
Yeah. All in all, once again, I think we enjoyed this. I had a good time with it. I would play this again, maybe with my wife or children.
Yeah.
Maybe for us, it's not necessarily a game we're going to play often, but
I'm going to bring it out in a family event with someone who...
John would play this, our father-in-law.
Yes.
He would play this, he'd understand it, he would enjoy it.
Yes.
So, all in all, good game. I'd give it high marks. I thought it was good.
An Attrition of Souls from Compass Games, a very unpretentious but enjoyable game, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. You get a fun World War I romp, and that's just awful to say out loud.
Yeah.
But that's what the game is.
In 90 minutes or less.
Which is just that ticks a lot of boxes for a lot of people out there. So worth checking out.
One other comment I want to say is there are some, like Mexico can come into the game.
Yes.
At the very end of the game. I thought that was really cool. I know they never came into the game, but like you said, the Kaiser was working hard to try to get them on their side.
They were trying.
Man, if they come in, all of a sudden... United States is wide open.
Yeah, they're trying to foment the Mexicans against the United States to stall that stuff.
That was interesting. I thought that was very cool. I remember thinking, well, when do these guys come in? And then we looked at that, and it was, I don't know. I just thought it was a kind of a neat
because there's not many of them. You get them in the bag, and then you might not ever draw them.
It's a what if. It's a total what if. And that's fine.
And then when you do, you're like, do I bother activating them? And if I do, they're not going to do anything, so they just got to sit there.
Well, if they could go and at least take the southern states, man, that's one IP.
Or just put some pressure on there so you can't just get all the U.S. forces
and move them into Paris. Yeah. I don't know. Lot to like. I think it was interesting. I think it was interesting.
So, yes, Scott Lee Brandt's Attrition and Attrition of Souls from Compass Games. Check it out. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.